What's going on, guys? Logan JYA, DRYTRON here. We got a ban list, which means we got DRYTRON 33.0 with 3 copies, count them, 3 of the Herald Orange Lights. And we're going to be taking advantage of all 3 of them in this particular build. I hope you enjoy it. If you want to see DRYTRON Combos Volume 3.0, please help this video smash over 200 likes, subscribe so you don't miss it, and I'm just going to keep this one to the profile so you guys have it in your hands, can start playing with it. If you have any questions, leave in the comments down below, but without further ado, let's get into it. All right, everybody, so let's get into it. DRYTRON 33.0, brand new ban list, brand new take. Apologies in advance, the footage looks a little weird. I'm not sure how this final product's going to turn out. Hopefully it's an improvement, might be a decrease in quality, but we'll find out. Anyway, let's dive into it. All right, guys, starting things off with the basics. You already know we got triple copies of Alpha, triple copies of Zeta, 2 Gamma, and 2 Delta. We're sticking to the golden ratio of 10. Again, start of a new format. We like to stick to basics when it makes sense to do so. And right now for this build, we're already at 44 cards. I'm having trouble finding rationalization and room for the next or last copies of Delta and Gamma. If anything, there's another card that I'll bring up later that I think might make more sense to fit in or prioritize rather than the additional names. But hey, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But right now, golden ratio of 10, baby. Let's move on. Next, we've got the GOAT. All right, come on, we got to shout it out nice and early. We're playing triple copies of Orange Light in this brand new build, baby. All right, so it's at 3. It may not be best to play 3 in every single build right now. For example, Jordy Wang showed us with his Amor Factor build that he was only playing 1, and that was sufficient to him, even though the card was at 2. But in this build, it makes sense to play 3, and you're going to see why in just a second here. But moving on with that, we got the 1 copy of Diviner, the 1 copy of Choju, so I think if you know, using context clues, you can kind of tell where we're going with this. And that is our 2 normal summons for this build. Of course, both searchable off Ben 10. You got pre-preparation of rights in the form of a monster card. You got a tribute summon it, not a big deal. And we've got Diviner. We all know what Diviner does. Send either Herald or Entis, do the thing. We got 2 copies of Kurikara in the main deck too. This is a board breaker, but also a fairy. Obviously, it's going to be fueling that orange light. And then we've got our rituals, 3 copies of Ben 10, the best girl, 1 Natasha, snatch steal on legs, keep recurring it, keep doing the thing. Feels pretty nice. Of course, we're playing the 1 copy of Draco, and it's our staple in DRYTRON. Don't cut it. I've made that mistake before. Continue to play it. More and more times does it come up for me to sack this as a material from hand. And when you don't have it in deck, not having that machine ritual available to you is certainly a struggle bus. Then we've got the Herald of Perfection. I made it obvious enough, right? We're playing Choju. We're playing triple copies of Orange Light. It makes sense to play a Perfection build because those are all fuel or getting you to the end goal of having your Perfection. What's Perfection backing up here? He's not hanging out alone. He's backing up the Magician of Black Chaos Max, one of the most powerful win cons the deck has access to. Now, we got some cool stuff on the side. Of course, we're not only relying on the Chaos Max, but it's putting in a heck of a lot of work, especially when you got a Perfection to serve double duty. So it's going to be one of the most tricky boards to break when you're ending on Perfection for 1 to 2 to 3, backed up with a Chaos Max. It's almost impossible for most of the meta decks, like Unchained, to keep up. So that's it for the monster lineup. Let's move on into the spells. We got triple copies of the mighty Cyber Emergency. It's Emergency that play this card at 3. You know, you could get away with 2. It's a hard once per turn, but no. We want to maximize that consistency. We're playing 3. Also, we're playing triple copies of Nova right now, and 1 copy of the field spell Fafnir. You could switch this ratio and do 2 and 2. Not a big deal. It's up to you. However, Sprite is still very real decks, so that level modulation effect still comes up, but less so for decks like Kashtira, which we're hoping we're not going to see as much of nowadays, and they don't got an Arise hard to go into anymore. Feels good, man. Then we've got the 1 copy of Menio and DRYTRON. Only 1 of the ritual spell in this build. Jordy was playing 2, but since we're playing Perfection and Choju, we are playing Dawn of the Herald. So that's enough ritual spells. I don't think we need any more. We'll leave it at that. And Dawn is insane. You add back your Ben 10 after sacking it, or you add back your Choju. Just keep that advantage going, fueling up the Perfection. Moving on. This is where we get into the flex stuff, okay? 2 copies of the Triple Tactics Thrust. Now, I feel bad because I see a lot of comments asking if there's any alternatives to Thrust and Talents. They're both very expensive cards right now, and I hear you, brother. It's a tough one, but unfortunately, it serves a very pivotal role in DRYTRON. So if you're playing it online, of course, I encourage you to play Thrust. If you're looking for an IRL alternative, Dark Ruler No More isn't terrible, and it's a lot cheaper. Infinite Impermanence isn't bad. You can even go as far as to say playing some hand traps in these slots, but
Thrust is unique in the sense that it's both engine and board breaker because it can search your emergency, your Nova, a Foolish Burial, whatever you need it to be, or it can search any of these one targets like a Preparation of Rites. I'm only playing one because it is a thrust target, and even though this is a perfection build, I'd rather see the fairies themselves rather than a way to search them because that pairs a little bit better with our orange light. You also got your Harpy's Feather Duster. Playing 3 copies of Harpy's Feather Duster against Labyrinth, a deck that uses monster effects in conjunction with their back row, yes please, it's really, really critical. Then we've got the 1 Triple Tactics Thrust, or Talents, excuse me. I still think it's worth playing even though we're not using it to add a Rise Heart, but having this as a searchable target going second, stealing monsters, breaking boards, looking at that hand, taking out that Nibiru or that Ash, that pesky card, really important to play. And of course you got the Foolish Burial, which serves as any of your names or access to a ritual monster in case you are not able to search it off of Alpha. You get Ashed on Alpha, Foolish can still get you into Ben 10 or into your Chaos Max to do your lock. Very important stuff to know. And now we're getting to board breakers. The most powerful board breaker we can play in this deck is Forbidden Droplets, and this card is back in style with the banning of a Rise Heart. In case you guys didn't know, playing a Rise Heart meant that it was really difficult to resolve droplets because you couldn't send from field or hand to grave, therefore you couldn't even flip and use this card. But now, this is insane against pretty much every single meta deck and all those unfair win conditions. The boards that Mana Diem are putting up can be problematic, but if you bait that trap card, you're going to droplets them, get them the heck out of there. If you're dealing with something like the Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, you're actually able to stop this. The Gimmick Puppet Lock coming from the Brandeds, droplets can stop that, so I highly encourage you to play this. It's not too bad price-wise right now. I think we're looking at like 20 bucks, but it takes care of what Dark Ruler can't. Moving on, we got 1 copy of Call by the Grave, and that's our last spell card, of course. Cancel out any hand traps, and it's also a pretty good offensive card, too. Now, before I move on, I want to give a quick shout-out to, I'm just going to put this on the screen while I'm talking about it, Pot of Prosperity, okay? Pot of Prosperity is a card I'm considering playing to increase the consistency of this deck. There were a few times in testing that I unfortunately bricked, and bricking is just par for the course, right? We're playing a combo deck, a 2-card combo deck. Sometimes you're not going to see the 2 cards you need. Boom, you bricked. Hey, it happens. But Pot of Prosperity is a card that is literally ban-worthy. Therefore, I think I'd like to try and make room for it in future builds. It's just so difficult. So if you have slots that you think you could recommend that you'd say, you know what, maybe this could be a Pot of Prosperity instead, let me know in the comments down below. Alright, moving on, last card in the main deck is 1 copy of Infinite Impermanence. Not only is this a thrust target, going first or second, it's a pretty good card just to see on its own. It's a hand trap. It's a really strong hand trap. So I think Imperm is the perfect card to put in for that final slot. And that's, again, 44 cards total in the main. Let's move on to that extra deck real quick. So, extra, we've got 2 copies of Moy Beta. That's not changing anytime soon. Oh, yeah. Then we got the 1 copy of Fuko. Hey, Droll is still a real card, but it's not seen as much main deck play, which really fares well for us, at least in this early testing so far. People don't see it as worth it. And that means we might not need this card as much in games 1. But 2 and 3, when those Drolls come in, yeah, you might have to Fuko pass. It's also a very good Zeus enabler. And combined with things like your Downard and your Zeus, you can put up those big sends against your opponents. So you've got either Fuko or you've got Moy Beta to enable your Zeus plays. And then the last XCB play, of course, is Beatrice. Beatrice being your rank 6, the essential piece, filling in for those gaps you're making with Diviner Ben 10 or Choju Ben 10. Sometimes you just get stopped at an awkward time. It's really important to have the Beatrice as a piece to climb into. So that's it for the X-Seeds. Let's move on into the Link monsters, starting things off with the 1 Link Karibo. You can do Relinquished Anima. Either one really works. Right now I'm testing out Link Karibo. Got the 1 copy of Dynamondo. Oh yeah, the boy. I want to play 2 of this. I really want to play 2 of this, but I'm struggling to find room. There's 1 card I could cut maybe. Let me know if you agree. I'll let you know in a sec. IP Masquerena. It's okay. We've got some targets for it, but I don't find myself going for it that often, like actually using its tag out effect, given our limited options. If we had a 2nd copy of Dynamondo, that would change big time. Nightmare Phoenix is the 1 card I'm thinking about cutting for the other copy of Dynamondo, but back row, strategic back row removal, outing things like there can be only 1. Oh, having that Phoenix is really, really important, especially if you have a Link Karibo on field. It's going to be impossible to go into your Dynamondo because it's also a Cyberse. So I think we still have to play Phoenix. If you guys see a different slot that it makes sense to cut for the 2nd copy of Dynamondo, or if I'm being crazy and don't think we need it, let me know in the comments. 1 copy of Apollosa for those big negates. I did want something a little bit beyond just our main package, and I have not been playing Apple recently, so I wanted to put it in here, and it has come up quite a few times, whether it be an extra safety net or a key end board piece or an IP tag out. Appo has been quite strong. Boral Sword for closing out games. You know why we do it. DRYTRON name plus Boral Sword equals game. DRYTRON name plus access code does not. And finally, the Underworld Goddess. Very important for outing that obnoxious Noir. I mean, honestly, guys, we have Curry Carr in the main, but if we don't see it, it's really nice to have that safety net in the extra deck. And of course, we've got our 2 Diviner targets. Unfortunately, mandatory to play. They still take up slots. That's the only downside. That's it for the main and side. Now we'll round things out with the side deck. So, starting things off, we've got triple copies of Ash Blossom, right? Brand, it's still going to be a very real strategy, and this is a catch-all card. You can bring this in against Tier, it's not that bad. There's so many things you can bring this in going first or second, just as an extra layer of interruption that people might not see coming because you're playing DRYTRON. One downside, though, it's not an engine piece, so don't side out engine for non-engine pieces. Honestly, you really got to keep the engine in there as much as possible, otherwise you're going to find yourself bricking. But I think Ash is a wonderful flex spot to play in the side. Triple copies of Lava Golem. Oh, Lava Golem is goated, guys. Lava Golem is goated. You should be playing this card. 1000%. I cannot overstate how much of an MVP this card is. Sacking over those big boards. It's good against Branded. It's good against all those build-a-board decks. And the Mana Diome, just say no. Unchained absolutely obliterates them. Then you're just playing through the one blue dog after they bring it back off the trap. Makes it free, alright? And it doesn't trigger them. That's another big thing. It doesn't trigger them. It doesn't trigger tier monsters when you sack over it. So Lava Golem is great. And I am citing the one copy of Lancia. Flunderies is still existing. They're the one shifter deck that's remaining in the prevalency of the meta. I hear a lot of people murmuring, oh, this is a great budget option. And hey, they're not wrong. It's pretty cheap and it's pretty good. So Lancia as a searchable out is pretty good. You also use it to back up your Chaos Max lock. Stop things like Bestials during the draw phase. Having Lancia is essential for that. Now, I mentioned this earlier, I'm siding the Amor Factor Pain. I might not have said this flat out, but for those matchups where it doesn't make sense to Chaos Max people, you bring in the Amor Factor Pain. What matchups am I talking about? I'm talking about Runic. You can literally make them turn skip themselves just by summoning Amor Factor. And hey, Chaos Max doesn't do that much against them, so it really makes sense to shift to this one. There are other matchups that it makes sense for. Branded, you negate all their fusions, 100% free. The Chimera decks, that's right, we're going in for this guy instead because they still have access to put up big bodies. Now we can just make their big bodies 100% irrelevant and skip their main phase and their battle phase so they can't even swing over him. So siding into Amor Factor, a very real strategy. We're basically doing what Jordy did, just reversed. And speaking of Jordy Wang, big shout out to him because, hey, Grave the Super Agent Organism, not bad, really not bad floodgate to cook some of the most problematic matchups. I'm talking about those Rescue Aces, those Branded, those Chimeras. Just say no. Make it so their boards are irrelevant. Grave the Super Agent Organism is great for that. Now, mind you, if you're doing this, you can't use your Perfection, okay? Because Perfection's level 6, obviously, they kind of conflict there. So maybe take out the Perfection package, put in the Amor Factor, and then Bing chill with your Grave the Super Agent Organism. Finally, we got triple copies of Evenly Matched, really, really strong. Going second card, again, shout out Georgie. I think it makes sense. And going into an unknown format, it's not a bad pick because it's just a really great form of generic removal. Combine this with a Droplets or a Lava Golem, and you're Bing chilling against most other build-a-board decks. And finally, last card on the side is the copy of Dimensional Barrier as our thrust target going first for certain matchups that are reliant on the mechanics that this card hits. So, wow, that was a mouthful, but that is DRYTRON 33.0. Guys, I'm just dropping the list right now. I want to give you Combos Volume 3 in its own video. If you want to see that happen, help us smash the 200 like goal, and I will get it to you ASAP, maybe within a week of when this video goes up. I'm sorry to push it off, guys, but the ban list means we got to make some changes, right? So it's good that it's not going outdated just like that. But DRYTRON best deck, baby. Never forget it. Logan JYA, sign off. Have a great day. I'll see you beautiful people later. Peace.